All right, folks, we're going to get started. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Meng Lim. I'm the Academic Registrar and Student Services Manager here at Ken Miller Institute, and I'm very happy to also welcome and thank for their participation and presence Zohar Burchik, our course coordinator for the Counselling and Psychotherapy programs, as well as Steph and Meg, two of our current students who are going to be great insights and student representatives for today's session. I want to thank you all for your attendance and for your interest in our counselling and psychotherapy programs. But to start off with, I do want to make an acknowledgement of country and note that Ken Miller was founded on the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. And we pay our respects to elders, past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge their deep, enduring connection to land, waters, and community. We extend this respect to all Indigenous peoples of this continent and adjacent lands, as well as to any First Nations people here with us today or who may view this recording after the fact. So today we'll have a bit of time to really just talk about the brilliant courses within our counselling and psychotherapy program. You'll each get an opportunity to ask some questions throughout the session in the Q&A chat, the Q&A feed. And if you did also want to share anything live, you can raise your hand and we can provide the microphone to you, or you can set comments in the chat as well. And a number of you will have already raised some questions when you registered for the session. And so we'll do our best to make sure that we incorporate responses to those throughout today. But again, please do feel free to raise your hand, put questions in the chat or the Q&A as we go through as well. And then when we get to the end, hopefully there'll be a bit more time for you to ask some additional questions if there's anything we didn't get to. So I wanted to pass it on to Zohar, who's going to really lead the session today and provide her insight as the course coordinator. And so over to you, Zohar.
Thanks, Meng, and welcome everyone, and a special welcome to our two students who have kindly volunteered their time to join us today. So my name's Zohar Burchik. I'm the course coordinator for the Counselling and Psychotherapy postgraduate programs, and I've been teaching with Ken Miller for the last maybe a little bit over 3 years. And I've been teaching counselling and psychotherapy for a little over maybe 15 years and been a therapist for 20 something odd years. So like most of our team, we are all counsellors and psychotherapists. We're not just teaching from books. Meng, happy to hear it. So who are we? Well, we're Ken Miller. We were established by Professor Francis McNabb 62 years ago. I'm learning to coordinate. Man, we'll do some psychic work here. So Ken Miller is a not-for-profit that was established by Francis McNabb, one of the first counselling organisations in Australia at the time. And we have got we now offer a combination of we're boutique, and we offer a combination of counselling and psychotherapy, and as well as counselling and psychotherapy and psychology training. So we look at all sorts of aspects of mental health education, and we also have a Ken Miller clinic. Over to you, Meng, for our next slide. In terms of who are we? So, like I'm saying, we're boutique. We've got this is a picture of our team of educators. All of them are therapists, and all of them are counselling and psychotherapy trained, except Rose, who teaches research for us. But again, so most of our people will be working part-time, and the rest of the time they're running practices, supervising, and researching. And so, who are our students? Well, this is a question I like to ask and try to answer, because you might be interested to know if you might be one of our students. So our students tend to come from a variety of walks of life. So we have mature age students, we have who are students who have had a full career and have decided to shift direction to a completely new direction. That might be a direction they've wanted to go in their whole life, but never had the courage to do so. Maybe they've had, or they may be coming from a cognizant profession, so they might be a social worker who wants to upskill, or a psychologist that wants to develop applied skills. We do a lot more in-person and interpersonal training than psychologists do. Most of psychology training is focused on research, therapies, and interventions. More hypothetically speaking, we do a lot of the relational stuff. We get people with lived experience who are wanting to put their experience to good use. We get people going through some kind of significant personal change. Often it's a significant personal change that makes someone go, hang on, what am I doing with my life? I want to do something that's meaningful to me. And counselling and psychotherapy is very, it can be challenging work, but it's very rewarding work. So I might even quickly check with our current students that are here with us, what drew you to do to join our program? Meg, maybe you go first. Yep.
Unmuted. Yeah, so I am making a mature age career transition. I started as a biologist and then public health. I decided that I wanted to become a therapist because I had great therapy myself and I wanted to work with people in that way. I foolishly started in psychology, and after 3 years went, no, counselling is where it's at, because of what you described, so how that relational, interpersonal aspect and like really getting to grips with like, the deep complexity of other people.
Thanks, Meg. Meg's very good at making us look good, so thanks for that. How about you, Steph? What drew you to do this kind of work?
Yeah, I feel like looking at that list and hearing you speak so hard, it was, so I was in teaching originally. So yeah, working with people already and, in the community, really enjoyed working closely with people. I think I felt like I wanted to work closer with people. And yeah, like Meg said, I had some really good therapy myself, and I just sort of saw that that was something that I could do. And was really drawn to Ken Miller for that, like, relational. I almost didn't know what I was getting into. It was that relational, that something that drew me here. But it was the point you said, Zohar, about people going through a significant personal change. I think I was just going into like a new phase of my life or something, and yeah, was that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So yeah, I think that is something, and I think also that the course seems to accompany that change in many ways for a lot of people, even if they're coming in thinking, yeah, I'll just do this, but it turns out to be a little bit more significant a process for people on a personal level and a professional level. So why study with us? Well, Meg and Steph already gave a little bit of a hint towards good reasons for studying with us. But I'll get you to move to the next slide, Meg, please. So first of all, we are a boutique training environment. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, a boutique training environment is a training environment where we know your name, we know who you are. You're not just, you do get a student number, and that student number does help processes be followed, but you're not a student number to us. I know I'm the course coordinator, and I know every single one of my students. That would be the same for all of our teachers. We accompany students through a process, and so it's a very personal. You get a personal, customized experience. And sometimes you get more attention than other times, but generally speaking, you are quite closely accompanied, and you don't have to compete with 400 other students in the class to come into contact with each other. And it also means that students have the opportunity to create a lot of relationships, a lot of friendships that go quite deeply, because people are going through a same process, not always in the same class, but more or less accompany each other along the same process. Mang, give us a click, please. Thank you. Now, part of that is also what comes with a boutique training environment is that we do have limited spaces, and we choose you for suitability. And when I say we choose you for suitability, that doesn't mean what it might mean in certain other institutions. So in a lot of places, it's just about getting a high mark, and it becomes all very competitive. What we are looking for are people that will diversify and enrich our classrooms, that bring some kind of level of readiness for personal change, or for a genuine encounter. And so while the spaces are a little bit limited, at the same time, once you're in the door, you get all of our full, wholehearted investment in your personal and professional development. So you get that personal touch. And the other thing is, our courses are counselling and psychotherapy in particular are all in person. And what we're doing is we're offering you an experiential and practical hands-on learning experience. So you're not just reading. You do have to do a lot of reading, and you do have to prepare work and things, but when we meet up in person, you get to practice, you get to engage with each other, you get to ask a lot of questions, you get to grapple with things. And so that's a really strong feature of our course, that and there are less and less courses that are able to offer that. Because of our small size, we're able to give that kind of honed in attention. The other thing is, which I mentioned before, is we've got a teacher practitioner model. So our teachers are not just academics, they're also actually working therapists. So you're getting your feedback and your responses and your training and your guidance from people who are working in the field and understand the field that they're working in. And another thing is we arrange your placements for you. Now, placements is always tricky no matter what institution you're in. But I can say, like, when I did my placement at La Trobe, I had to find my own placement, and that's the case in most organizations. And that took about 40 applications before we got there. And what we mean by placement, for those of you who aren't familiar with the term, it's essentially work integrated learning. So there are certain points in the program, both towards the end of the grad dip and further into the masters, there are certain points where we arrange for you an opportunity to be practicing in a work integrated context. So you're practicing with real clients and receiving supervision and guidance around that, and also learning about how the world outside of you in the counselling world functions, including its challenges. I think probably, oh no, so it keeps jumping, so I wasn't sure if it's changing slides or not. So yeah, us arranging placements for you is something that is, it doesn't mean that it's a stress-free process. Getting started, once you're in it, feels a little bit better. But we do go to the effort and of setting up placements for you, and we do provide supervision, a lot more than the minimum requirement. So the placement becomes part of your continued learning. And also, graduates are really good at what they do. Even our current students are really good at what they do. The two students we have here, like, you would be completely comfortable and safe going to see them as a therapist right now, like, and they've not even finished their studies yet. And we've got a good reputation for that. So I don't want to name names in case the situation changes, but like, from one of our placement organisations this year moved to only accepting students from Canmiller. When students continue from our programs into other professional developments later, like with the Centre for Emotion Focused Practice, we have a reputation. They're very welcoming of our students because they think that we are, the students that come out of our training have a solid ability to do what they're supposed to be doing. So. And then the other thing is that our courses are both PACFA and ACA endorsed. So ACA endorses our graduate diploma and our masters. PACFA only endorses the masters, but the reason PACFA only endorses the masters is because they only endorse 2-year courses, and the masters is a 2-year course. So the graduate diploma sits within is endorsed by PACFA, but not as a standalone product. And who are PACFA and ACA? Well, they are the peak bodies that govern counselling and psychotherapy in Australia. Other things that may make our course attractive to you, and the girls have probably seen some of these slides before, is that our course is philosophically aligned. So what does that mean? It means that we don't just throw a whole bunch of things at you. We have some kind of underlying principle to which we work, and which is a humanistic model that is process orientated. So process meaning we allow things to emerge, we interact with things in a particular way, and it's integrative. So we start to introduce other models as well, but they are still seen through a humanistic process orientated lens, and it's systemically informed, which just means that we acknowledge and understand that people aren't born into a vacuum. They're born into environments and contexts, and those contexts interact with us and influence us, and we influence the environment. We learn how to take that into account. The other thing I will say, the reason I've chosen this child looking into the distance is in process orientated and humanistic type courses, there's not an attempt to teach you every piece of knowledge that is possibly available on the planet. What we're trying to do is teach you the way of being of a therapist, and give you some fundamentals, and teach you the way of being of a therapist that hopefully equips you to deal with the twists and turns of life as a therapist, and continue to learn as you go on. So we're trying to set you up for having the right mind frame and emotional frame to not have to know everything when you enter a new space, and actually know how to work with the unknown. Another reason to choose our program is that I'm not very good at talking to slides, which means you're going to get a very real experience from me in class. But when I am talking to slides, when there's student satisfaction surveys that get collected nationally, and they're collected from students who have already graduated a little bit down the track. And so we are doing quite well on that front. And I hope this is the current slide. We've done quite well. Yeah, it is the current slide. Good. I was looking at the wrong. We do quite well above the national average. We even do, we've even done better than the 4-year average in some areas. So we are measured to be the best place for you to study this particular area of study. But our program may not be for you. And I always worry management when I start to say this program may not be for you because of these things, but what I found is that people get attracted to the course if they're attracted, if this is their way of being. And so, you know, our course has a contemplative component. You will be doing a lot of learning about yourself along the way. So if you're not interested in learning anything new about yourself, it might not be a perfect fit for you. There's a relational aspect. So everything that we're doing is interpersonal. You're practicing with each other and you are learning from each other as people. So who classmates are as people comes into the picture of what we're getting out of this. And so each group is co-created. That's why we want to have a rich tapestry of students with different life experience. So you will have to be interacting with other people, but it's preparing you for the kind of work you'll be doing in the outside world. And the other thing is most of our wounds form, and this is the next click, that most of our wounds are formed in relationship, and it's where our difficulties with trust come in, and our trust in ourselves is restored, and also relationally. So it's a good way of, you know, counselling is about people more than it is about knowledge. And so contact with each other is part of that. So if you don't want to be interacting with anybody and you just want to be reading a book in the dark and imagining what it's like to talk to people in a counselling session, it might not be a good fit. It's reflective. Reflective is this idea that we intentionally think about, well, what is it that we're feeling? What is it that we're noticing? What is it that's happening for us in this moment? You know, how does it relate to other experiences in our lives? You know, how can I grow from this experience? So not everyone who enters our course is very strongly reflective, but we want to see some evidence of a capacity to be reflective so that when we encourage it, you'll do well. It's also reflexive, and reflexive is the invitation to go beyond just going, oh, what is it that's going on for me? You also maybe want to ask, what is it my assumptions about the world, and be able to examine those without it being too much of a threat to your well-being. So that's what we mean by reflexive. And I'll just add about the interpersonal component, that just because it's interpersonal doesn't mean that we throw you in the deep end and put you in all sorts of scary situations. We're not doing those cult-like scenarios from India in the 80s. Some of you may be a little bit young to know what I'm referring to, but you know, we're not putting you in scary situations. We do it gently and safely and respectfully, I might add. So speaking to our program's structure. So our program has a nested structure. This means that that the graduate certificate, that everybody starts at the same time with the same units. If you're enrolled in the graduate certificate, the graduate diploma, or the master's, you all start together. It's just some people exit after 4 units, some people exit after 8 units, some people exit at the end of the master's program. And so if people are studying a graduate certificate, they'll be doing exactly the same first 4 units that a part-time graduate diploma student will be doing. So semester 1, 2 units taught in the same day. Semester 2, 2 units taught in the same day. If you're doing a full-time graduate diploma, you'll be doing 2 days a week. And yeah, so morning and afternoon classes taught in the same day. That can be very deceiving when it's in the same day. It can be very, very deceiving. It's quite, for every 3 hours of face-to-face, you can expect another 9 to 12 hours maybe of additional work associated with that unit. If it's an applied unit with lots of practice, you can even add another 3 hours of that of just interpersonal practice. So a part-time study load can end up being like, I don't know, like 25 hours a week or something. So do keep that in mind between practice and reading and preparing assignments and things like that. So we've mapped it out slightly differently to communicate the same information, just in case this works visually better for one person while the other one works visually better for the other. So here's an example of a part-time course structure. Students are doing theories and models in the morning on a Tuesday. And please, it may not be on a Tuesday. I just want to be clear. The days sometimes change from year to year. It depends also how many classes are opening up at the same time. So I'm saying Tuesday now because that's how it was this year. Next year it might be different. You'll need to have that confirmed closer to start of semester. But day one will be theories and models in the morning and person-centered counselling in the afternoon, both taught on the same day. And then you'll have 12 weeks of study with, there'll be a mid-semester break of 2 weeks, but 12 weeks of study, 3 hours per week in person on campus. And then, 9 to 12 associated study time. And then semester 2, you'll have these 2 subjects and taught on the same day, same scenario, and so on and so forth. So ask student services if you're interested to send you a copy of these slides and have a good read of them. And when if you have any further questions about the structure of things, that can, happy to have to answer any questions around that. I'll also add that for the master's units, we can rearrange the order in which things are studied. But the first couple of years, the first year full-time or 2 years part-time is follows a particular sequence. Your placement is designed to meet the requirements of Australia's peak bodies of counselling and psychotherapy. So they have minimum requirements. We go beyond the minimum requirements, and what that means is our course being endorsed by ACA or PACFA doesn't mean that you automatically get membership or registration with ACA and PACFA. What it means is you need to be a member of one of those to get insurance, and they want you to have studied to a particular standard. And us having their endorsement means that rather than them having to scrutinize every element of a course that you've studied, they can know for sure that you got an excellent education, and that just is a box that gets ticked, that they know you've had and you don't have to fret whether you're going to get membership or not, because that aspect is covered from our perspective. The aims of placement are, like I was saying before, it's a work integrated experience. There are placements with a wide range of clients. It's an opportunity to apply your learning in the real world and to continue that learning. A lot of people's learning happens in supervision. It's also learning about professional conduct in the field. It's learning about real challenges that exist in the field. Sometimes placement environments are a bit messy, and we'd love them to be really well held and taken care of, but they've always got budgeting issues, and there's people available and not available. And but it teaches you about the world outside while you're still kind of being held in the background. You got the benefit of learning from experienced people who are out in the world doing their work, so you learn from others as well. And you can develop a range of additional skills for collaborative teamwork if you haven't developed those already. And also, I guess that's the last one's another way of saying the same thing. You're developing an awareness of professional issues and relating to resources in mental health care. In terms of what the placement opportunities we offer are, and I'm really hogging up all our time here before you get to hear from the students and ask you questions, but it's a question that I get asked a lot, like, what are the placement opportunities? Where are they? Well, it changes a lot because placement is a changing landscape, and we're always advocating to secure more places. But we have a CMI clinic, which offers a limited number of placements. We've got community agencies and clinics, community health and service organisations, schools, on and off tertiary institutions, rehabilitation providers. We've got aged care facilities available to us, EAP counselling, and we also have some opportunities available for us in rural settings for students who can afford within where they are at in their life to spend a night away. Then we have a relationship with some centres in the Latrobe Valley, and accommodation will be paid for to stay there overnight. So when I spoke about mature age students, I want to say not all our students are on the mature age side. We've also got younger students, and they also bring something to the mix. I know it's an afterthought way down the track. Depends on their own emotional maturity. Sometimes someone's been through quite a bit by the age of 25 and has a lot to bring. And certainly the counselling profession needs people of all ages, genders, and backgrounds. So who you are as a person is what you're bringing in addition to your skills, and I think it's an important point worth mentioning.
So before I move on to the next slide, I actually might pass it on to Steph and Meg. Obviously, where you feel comfortable. There have been some questions in the lead up to today about just what the student experience has been like in placement. So any insights that you have in terms of what you've done, what you've taken out of it, and what you've felt has been particularly valuable?
And you mean specifically for placement? Yeah.
I think there's questions around just generally what the schedule and like day in the life has been, but given the slide that we're on at the moment, I was curious about
about placement. Yeah, totally. So I did my placement at the CMI clinic. I chose to go 2 days a week. The CMI clinic has 4 different locations, and so I worked across 2 of those locations that drew on different populations. So that was really excellent as well to get more diversity of people that I was seeing. I found it fantastic. Like, the clients that I saw were incredibly diverse in their age, background, the issues that they were facing. And the clinic there is offered to people for free, and so people didn't have to pay. And so it made it really accessible for people who might not otherwise have had access. And so, yeah, it was, for me, astonishing. I was terrified before my first client walked in the door, but basically as soon as the first client came in, there was just like yes, this is it. And I learned so much from my clients. It was, really amazing. CMI also gave me a really, really great support. So our placement coordinator had set me up really well, set all of us up really well. Was always available to give us any kind of support. If I hit any issues, I could contact her, and she was there not only with practical support, but also real emotional holding as well, which, is invaluable in that kind of, new and challenging situation. So yeah, basically I cannot wait for my next placement, which is first semester next year. That was kind of high level, but yeah, Steph, do you have stuff to say?
Yeah, I second absolutely everything you said, Meg. I was also at the CMI clinic, so that's maybe just a coincidence. We weren't there at the same time, though, I think. I guess I'll second everything you said, but I'll add as well. So I was only doing 1 day a week, but the sort of time required for placement is more than just I think I want to speak to that. Like, it's more than just one day, or in Meg's case, like 2 days. There was, I had another day during the week where I had individual supervision, and then another day during the week where I had group supervision, which are just invaluable. Particularly, I liked the element that CMI offers. Well, it was a requirement that we do group supervision as well. And I didn't really know what group supervision was, but in the end, I think it was maybe, aside from the client work, like one of my favorite things about placement, and an extra way that I felt really held, yeah, by my peers. And that's just this really beautiful element to placement, and the CMI experience in general, I think, is peer support and connection. So yeah.
Thank you. I'd just also like to add that Steph did a graduate diploma with us, got a job in counselling immediately, and then came back to do a master's a year later. So, so you got all that extra out in the world experience as well. Yeah. So in terms of, thank you both. In terms of application and selection process, for the well, you need to apply directly online, and you'll have to provide a written response as part of your application. There is I'm just wondering if is this mine to say, or yours, Meng, but there's a 60% WAM, so weighted average mark for your undergraduate degrees. 60% average to get into the grad cert or the graduate diploma, and 70% minimum to get directly into the masters. But if you don't have the 70% and you're wanting to do the masters, do not fret. If we think you're really suitable and we'd like to invest love and attention in you, what we'll do is we'll let you into the graduate diploma and support you through the graduate diploma, and then if you do well there, then you can continue to the masters. Also, we have alternative pathways, which are a little bit more complicated for people who've got many years of experience as counsellors but don't have an undergraduate degree, and maybe did like a diploma and an advanced diploma and got experience out in the field and have been working for some time, and now they're wanting to up their credentials. Then we do have alternative pathways, but you'd have to have a discussion with the course coordinator, which is me, about what that exactly means. You need a recent academic transcript so we can make sense of how you went in your bachelor's, and also get a sense of what type of bachelor's you did, so we know how much of a bridging we'd need to do to help you get into the groove of the program. We'd want a current CV, and we have like 5 or 6 questions that you maybe need to provide a paragraph response for, and it's questions like, what drew you to doing this, and getting you to reflect on an ethical dilemma you've had along the way. And we're not wanting you to reflect on an ethical dilemma with the expectation that you know how to unpack ethical dilemmas in a professional way. It's more around watching how you look at things and grapple with things a little bit, to get a sense of how well you'll deal with this stuff when you're in it. There's also something called HODSPA, which is I might get Meng, do you know how HODSPA works, to explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. HODSPA is a central reference portal which a number of different universities and institutions use across their reference checking process. Candidates would need to sign up for a HODSPA account themselves, and then what they would then be able to do is provide references or reference details to the portal in that single through that single platform, and it will be distributed to any institution, that you then choose to apply for. So for yourself, all you would need to do as the candidate is to provide those details, and the Hotspur portal itself will then distribute it to the relevant schools accordingly. So for anyone who's considering applying, you will just need to make sure that you've shared your details in Hotspur, and then we'll be able to access them from that point onwards.
And then you'd need to get 2 referees to, answer some questions there and provide references for you. I've also noticed that the writing here has kind of gone over for some reason, but you need to also provide proof of identity and your what is it? Your citizenship standing, or I'm not sure what it says there. Anyway.
Yeah. Just ensuring that if you are providing copies of documents, making sure that they are certified, rather than just taking a photo of something.
Yes, thank you. And so then when you do that and you get all your paperwork in, and Student Services will be glad to help you with all of that. And if you have any questions, you can email our applications team, and they'll respond. We've got John there, who's just an absolute darling, and he is really, really generous with his responses. So no question is a stupid question, sort of thing with him. I know this. He's been very generous with my questions. But then once we get all of that in line, and we review your responses and review your application, we then invite you to an interview, and there'll be a couple of us just having a conversation with you about, for about 20 minutes, and to see assess your readiness and suitability for the program. And our intention behind that is to make sure it's the right fit for you and for us. So for us, meaning for other students in the class, so you can engage with each other in a good and safe way. And from your perspective, if you're very, very, very emotionally activated because you're in the middle of a big divorce, for example, having had that experience is fantastic, but have you got the right supports in place? And it can't replace your therapy work, is what I'm saying. And we do encourage people to get their own therapy anyway. It just helps integrate everything. So what does it take to get past? I jokingly wrote getting past the bouncer. We're not so horrible. We're actually welcoming you in general, but we just want to make sure that it's the right time for you. So the course is helpful rather than harmful in a way. So other than relevant qualifications, we want to see that you have emotional and psychological readiness. We want to see that you can meet the inherent requirements, so that you're actually capable of what's required of a counsellor in our view. We want some sort of clarity from you about why you want to do this. Doesn't matter that you might discover along the way that you had a totally other reason that you didn't really register at the time, but we want to see that you've put some thought into it, that it wasn't just a afternoon you thought, oh, well, maybe I'll do this. We want to know that you're a good philosophical fit. So if you're someone who's very, very rigid and who needs everything to be just so, you might find our program a challenge. So we encourage people who have some level of tolerance for uncertainty to apply. Again, you don't have to be a fully formed person who has no problems, and we all have problems. We all, a lot of people question even throughout the course, oh my God, could I be a therapist? I don't know, I have too many issues. I still have issues, and I've been doing this for 20 years. It doesn't matter, but you need to be conscious of those and be able to engage with them without it throwing you about to a level of dysfunction. Curiosity about what you don't know about yourself, maturity to handle what you discover and learn from the experience of this course, and ability to be self-directed and stay on track with your studies, even when you're having all these emotional discoveries and aha moments about your personal life. We do value relevant experience in the field. We value lived experience. So, if you've been through stuff in your life, we value that. We value diversity. These are all things. So we're not none of it's about being rigid about fitting within a particular box. It's really around kind of just checking that you're in the right place within yourself for the course, not to cause you distress. And also the course isn't that big and scary either. It can be very enriching and wonderful, but it does a little bit of both. It can be personally challenging. So we want to know you're in the right headspace for it.
So before I move on again, another opportunity that I would, if you don't mind me putting you both on the spot, Meg and Steph, a lot of curiosity from our attendees around like what makes a good student or what advice you would have to succeed in these courses. Particularly a lot of questions around the workload in general, how to kind of manage the commitments, especially given that a lot of people will be, you know, potentially also working or other managing other personal commitments. Any insights that you have from your current experience as students?
So I did my, so Iris laughing because she remembers how I was in my first semester. I did my first semester full time, and then I swore I would never do it again. And so now I'm doing like a semi part-time, so I'll finish in 3 years. In my first semester, so it was full time. I've got a PhD, so I thought it's not going to take me full time. It took me full time. Like I was reading and practicing and thinking and learning and processing all my daylight hours, basically. I did 1 shift a week volunteering on a helpline. That's it. I was lucky enough not to have to work. That being said, an international student in my cohort also worked 1 day a week, and so did some of my other friends. They were full-time and they worked 1 day a week. They were exceptionally well organized and self-managing and so on. So like it's a big workload. That being said, you also absolutely need some downtime because you can't actually run like that for 12 weeks. So yeah, you really do need to stay on top of things from the beginning because, you know, at one point, I think I had 12,000 words due in 3 weeks. And so you can't be writing that at the last minute. Yeah, I am personally much happier at doing 2 or 3 subjects a semester, which is what I'm currently doing. With that, I'm still doing volunteer work. I could work as well if I wanted to, but there's not really much time for me to slack off. Steph, what do you think?
I loved how open and honest you were with that answer, Meg. I'm glad you went first because yeah, I started laughing too. Yeah, because I also did full-time, so I did the first year, so the grad diploma full-time. And yeah, it's hard to find words to speak about that year. Yeah, it was very full on. I started working part-time. So as I started the year, I had a part-time job, which was 3 days a week. So I was doing the 2 days at CMI and then 3 days a week. That quickly changed to 2 days. That quickly changed to 1 day. And then it changed to, as Meg said, nothing at all except this course. Yeah, pretty much the whole year I did absolutely nothing except I was living and breathing this course in the best way, and you know, having downtime as well. So yeah, I would strongly recommend, if possible, not working if you end up doing full time, as a general statement.
I would agree with that. So what I would say is if you're wanting to do the course full time, it is actually genuinely a full-time course. And so you're best to do that full time. And if you're working no more than 1 day a week, if you do want to work and actually have a life to balance things out with and other responsibilities, I don't mean you don't have lives, you obviously have, but if you have other responsibilities and you need to balance that out, it's probably a part-time would be a better fit. And it's not just because of the amount of information, because it's not just that it's not that you're just having loads of information dumped on you. You're engaging with information that might be the first time in your lives that you're engaging with something that's like completely interesting to you and personally relevant, and it stirs things up. So you're going through a process where you're reflecting on things and discovering things and all of that. And sometimes that can also make you wobbly, and that takes up some bandwidth. So you may not have the same amount of bandwidth for study as you think you do when you bring that into account. And so, and like Meg said, we've got a number of international students who seem to manage to just ace full-time work with full-time study and fit in work around it. I don't know how they do it. So if you're really highly organized, maybe, yeah. But if you have the choice, go part-time, because you can go deeper and take your time and reflect on things. Both are doable, I would say. It depends on your way of being in the world as well.
Thanks, Max. There's a lot of appreciation for those comments, that's for sure. I just want to apologize. I don't know why my screen has suddenly gone so dark, but I will just briefly speak to the next couple.
Oh no, it hasn't gone dark. It's just I just changed the colors to mix it up a bit. Sorry.
No, sorry, I meant my video. It's
sorry. No, you look okay to us.
So I just wanted to speak to the next couple of slides. Obviously, Zohar, Steph, and Meg have provided some really great insights specifically into the counselling and psychotherapy courses, but I also just wanted to address some of the broader student supports and resources that we do offer across the board at Cairnmillar. So we know that there are a number of you here today who are international students, and that's a really focused area for Cairnmillar at the moment in making sure that we can provide some tailored social activities, workshops, as well as study advice specifically to our international student cohort, because we do acknowledge that obviously that transition and that experience for you is quite nuanced and quite different. So there are a number of services that are dedicated to that student cohort. We also do have a number of different academic resources that we offer throughout your academic journey, whether that's one-on-one learning advice, workshops and other study sessions, as well as strategies and tips that students can access. And then finally, learning equity. So again, acknowledging that a number of students, particularly motivated to engage with mental health because of their own experiences. And so some of you may have either ongoing or temporary accessibility needs, or just experience other special or personal circumstances throughout your studies. And so there are a few different kind of flexible study modifications or interventions that we can also offer to those students to make sure that any barriers are, as best we can, mitigated so that you can still succeed in your journey. A few questions well around the finances of this. So the updated annual full-time fees as well as part-time options are now published to the relevant course pages on our website. So on each course page, you'll see the dedicated tuition fees, and on the general fee table as well, you'll see the amounts across all of our programs. So feel free to have a look there. There are also a number of different ways that you can pay for your tuition fees. So for eligible domestic students, all of our courses are open for fee help loans if you would choose to allocate them the cost that way. There are also a number of different external study loans that you can access either through the government or through other kind of committees and bodies, particularly supporting mental health and mental health education, which you might want to research into. And then finally, there are a number of upfront and direct payment plans. So whether that's payment plans themselves or whether you would like to make direct and full payments, you can also choose to do that. We do have a number of internal scholarships and subsidies for some of our other courses at Cairnmillar. So if that's something that you would be interested in, you're welcome to reach out to our applications team and we can chat with you about some of those other funding models. But again, we really do our best to support students. So if you do require, individualized or flexible payment options, again, reach out to our team and we can have a chat with you about some of those options. So I know there's been a lot of information thrown at you today, and we'll get a chance to do a few more questions in a moment. But just in terms of some key takeaways, we are open already with our applications and we will remain open until the end of January. And as Zohar mentioned, some of the application processing has already commenced, both in terms of review as well as interview invites. So ongoing and conditional early offers are already being made from this month onwards. So we have had a couple of questions around students who are currently finishing a program. And again, we do offer those conditional offers. So if you are still finalizing your last year of a bachelor or another course, you can still apply with your current marks and your current transcripts, and may be eligible as a result for a conditional early offer. Again, as mentioned, there are flexible payment modes as well as study modes, whether that's fee help or direct payments, part-time or full-time studies. So definitely reach out if there are specific arrangements that you think you would be really interested in, if you have any questions around those, and we can advise further. So we've got to the end of the formal part of the presentation. I know there have been a number of questions already coming through in the Q&A, so please feel free to continue sharing any questions you have in either the chat or the feed there. Again, if you prefer to raise your hand, we can also invite you to speak. But for now, I might just speak to some of the questions that are still coming through our feed. So firstly, a question from Yasaman, and I'll direct this initially to Zohar. There's been a question around what you would advise are the advantages of going straight into the masters over starting with perhaps the grad dip or the grad cert.
Okay, so I would say that that's a really good question, actually. So I think grad dip is, you might as well go for a grad dip over a grad cert. Grad cert will give you an opportunity to put your toe in the water and get a bit of a sense of the program. But I don't really know. I think some of them are administrative because you need to maintain a particular standard to move from the grad cert to the grad dip, from the grad dip to the masters. So do you want to have to go through an application process to continue? I think it's I don't have a good answer for that. I do think it's a good question. Do you have any thoughts on it, Meg? From a process? Yes, Meg.
Sorry, Meg. Sorry.
I said Meg, but Meg, I'm happy for you to have thoughts on it too. You've probably got more experience of that than me.
No, I was just about to definitely go ahead, Meg.
Thank you. I was just going to say, Zohar, so I didn't know what I wanted to do when I went through my application process, and you recommended the masters to me because it meant that I could just flow on through. And I guess I would just say I don't see any downside to just starting with the masters, right? Because you could decide halfway through just to exit with a grad dip if you wanted to. I also just wanted to just acknowledge that some of the people who started with me started in a grad dip and have now flowed on to the masters. So it's kind of, there's multiple exits and multiple entries. And now over to the actual expert.
Not at all. I was just going to say a number of you, again, have had some questions around specifically your study intentions and what the best kind of fit would be. So something I do really want to encourage you all to consider is that if you would like or feel like you would benefit from a bit more conversation about your specific circumstances, we do also offer individual or one-on-one admissions consultations. So you can book an appointment with one of our applications team members, and they'll actually be able to talk you through kind of, your previous background, your current experiences and qualifications, and give you a bit more advice around what that pathway or what that best pathway might be. But again, one of the benefits of counselling and psychotherapy overall is that if you do think that you're eligible for example, the master's program, you do have options to either exit early should you choose to actually stick with a lower level qualification, or alternatively, on the flip side, you could enroll in either the grad dip or the grad cert as a bit of a taster, and if you did really enjoy it, there are some credit pathways as well to then transfer into the master's program with recognition of that prior learning.
I was thinking about a few further answers to that. There is some value in applying for the graduate diploma, just because if you're wanting to start working, if you're doing part-time and you're wanting to start working after the graduate diploma, you would need to transfer everything into an early exit to get a ACA, an Australian Counselling Association membership. They make you go through the whole process of kind of like unenrolling, early exiting, re-enrolling, because they want to see that your degree is conferred. So if you anticipate that you will be learning, you'll be looking to work as a counsellor, you'll be looking for work and looking for membership in ACA in order to do that. Maybe initially enrolling in the graduate diploma would be the better option from that perspective. I also had the other thought that sometimes, you know, if we've had this big onslaught of applications and we've got a whole lot of really, really good applicants, and then we've got applicants that we thought are showing a lot of potential, but we don't have yet the confidence that they're 100% ready, we'll often offer them, if they've applied for a master's, we'll offer them a graduate diploma and say, well, why don't you come and give it a go and try, and we'll work together, and then we'll see at the grad dip if you know, if we think this is a time to continue with a master's, or you know, or do you want to go get some experience, come back, or do personal work and come back, depending whatever is going on for somebody. And it's a really good way of allowing people, giving people the chance, and also giving the people an opportunity to see what's the right timing for them around things, and then coming back and really coming in strong. And I think that's a really because it's not about, it's so not, you need to not look at it as a performance thing, but rather as a, you know, this is something that we're really wanting you to embrace and do well, and we want to support you in doing well, and whatever that looks like. And a lot of people do just come for a graduate diploma, not through, you know, we want to encourage moving into the masters, but it also needs to be the right time for you for that, because the masters goes much deeper than the graduate diploma. So you kind of, you're getting an opportunity to work towards something, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Sarah. I know we've run a little over time. And
yeah.
So I do.
But I mean, we're recording it, so if we just a few more minutes, even just to answer questions.
We do have a couple more questions that I just want to try and make sure we get to before we wrap up today. So just very quickly, Millie H, I see you have your hand up. Did you want to share the questions that you had for now?
Hello. Oh, there I am. Can you hear me? I can't.
Yes, we can.
Oh, fabulous.
We can hear
Thank
you, but
so
not
much.
see you. Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you. This has been really insightful. I did just have a question about how detailed the CV should be for the application for the grad dip. I personally have limited formal work experience. At the moment, I'm completing a certificate 4 in mental health and about to go on placement. But I was just curious about maybe what things I should be having on the CV. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be related work. It can be any work. And also, if you're not, then that's fine. Just whatever you have is fine. We don't. It just helps us. It's not that we're looking at your CV and we're going, that CV needs to be, this is what we're looking for in a CV. What we're doing is we're looking at the whole picture, and all these different elements helps us make sense of who the applicant is. And then in the end, we're having a conversation with you, invite you for an interview, and we spend 20 minutes having a chat. So
yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, don't let any one single element make your inner critic go hard on you to the level where it prevents you from applying. Although if your inner critic is attacking you to the point where it's preventing you from applying, maybe go do some work with that, then come back.
Yeah.
And then
no,
when you can live in
completely.
peace, with the critic a little bit.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks, Millie. So we do have a couple more questions that we didn't get a chance to get to. So I'm just going to kind of consolidate them just into one final question, which I'll pose to all three of you, Zohar, Steph, and Meg, before we wrap up today. And so again, if this doesn't, for any of you who are here who this doesn't answer your question, feel free to reach out to us after the fact. You can either send through an email to our applications team, or as I mentioned, you can book in for an individual consultation. But just as a final question to the panel, again, my best attempts at consolidating the last few that we didn't get a chance to get to. I might ask each of you so there's a lot of conversation around the difference between counseling, psychotherapy, and in particular, how that relates to psychology. And there have been a few questions around, what are the differences? What would you advise? And so what I might just end with is, to all three of you, what really made you lean towards counseling, and why are you so passionate about it now that you've engaged with it?
I think we might start with our students. Put you on the spot a bit. And actually, maybe if you can answer that, and also maybe say just something about anything you have to add about the program that you think is important that hasn't been said.
Yeah, this is really on the spot. It's a tricky one. So I suppose I can relate my work. I think there was an element of that question in there about, maybe in the field and in work related environments, which, as Zoha mentioned, I have gone and worked after finishing the grad dip. I went and worked for a year before coming back to do the master's. I worked with a lot of different people in coming from different backgrounds in mental health. So yeah, like psychologists, OT, social work, mental health peer support people in an agency that I was working at. I think the thing that stood out as a bit of a difference, the way that I was different to them was this person-centered foundation that I come from now, coming from Ken Miller. And it's just, I opened my eyes, expanded my world, changed the way that I am with people and with myself. Yeah, it's hard to really sum up person-centeredness in this short seminar. But yeah, it's just a very beautiful, deep relational way of being. Yeah, it's very special. So that's sort of why I'm passionate about counselling and psychotherapy, and I wouldn't change it now for anything. I'm so glad that I ended up at Ken Miller. Fun fact, I actually got accepted before applying here. I actually got accepted into Swinburne or another university as well, and I just didn't get the same vibe from them. If vibe means anything to, I don't even know what vibe means, but it's wasn't right. And Ken Miller was just right. It's this place from the heart. So that's if that makes any sense.
Steph, you make me emotional.
Yeah.
Thank you. How about you, Meg?
So I come from like a science background. I worked in science for a long time. Like I said, I did 3 years of psychology, like grad dip and honors. And I am still friends with a lot of people who've gone on to do masters in psych and clin psych. And I just sort of realized, so psychology is much more focused on research, like it's a research practitioner model. You're expected to be able to do research, etc. Whereas my focus is very much on like being with people in a room therapeutically. Like that is what I want to focus on. I don't want to do research. I also personally don't vibe with, to use that word, like more cognitive models of therapy, even though we do learn a cognitive model, ACT, as part of the course here. But yeah, I didn't see the point in doing like a master's to basically become extremely skilled in CBT when I myself, that's not how I wish to practice. And as Steph said, it's that relational, person-centered way of interacting with people where we're not seeing people as problems, nor are we seeing their issues as, pathologies to be resolved, or if we could just replace the bad thoughts with the good thoughts, then you'd be fine, and so on. It's more about being with somebody, in a person-to-person, deep, caring, accepting way that is itself healing, is the way that I want to work, and that is the way that I am being taught to work at Ken Miller. And so for me, that is why in the end I chose counselling over psychology, even though I was halfway down the psychology path. And in some ways, it might have felt like a better fit to my background, but this is what I really wanted to do. And I guess the one other thing I wanted to say about, you know, what I feel about the course, it's just, I remember Zohar saying it, and I'm going to misquote her, but you know, something that she said in, I believe my, you know, this info session when I was thinking about applying here. So you said something like, you know, the purpose of the course is not to teach you skills, although you will learn skills, but it is rather to, you know, help you to become the kind of person who can relate therapeutically with somebody else, something along those lines. And I feel like that is really what this course is in the process of giving me. It is, you know, I am changing enormously as a person throughout this course, and I can feel that ongoing. But it started happening in the first semester, like it was an immediate transformational process that is just roll on, and it is radically changing, like Steph said, the way that I am with myself and the way that I am with other people. And it is turning me into someone who is able to hold therapeutic space with somebody else. And that is the fundamental thing that I'm learning. And I don't think I would have got that if I'd done psychology instead. So yeah.
A lot of love being shared for both of your insights, so I really do thank you. I think it's again, we've really run over time, so I'm going to have to wrap up, but there's just been so many comments around appreciation for the thoughts that all three of you have shared, that focus on person-centric and speaking from the heart. So thank you so much for all of your insights and your comments and for sharing your experiences. Again, I just want to reiterate those thanks and to say again to anyone here today that if you do still have any questions, feel free to reach out. As I mentioned earlier, we really do hope to see your applications come through soon, but otherwise a recording of this will be distributed, so you'll get a chance to review it if it would help. And just again, thank you for all of your interest and for your time today. So we'll wrap it up there. Hope you all have a great evening. And again, just hope to see your applications come through soon. Thanks again, folks, and have a good evening.